The day my world came crashing down started with a simple attempt to do something nice for my dad. He was heading out for work one morning, visibly irritated because no one had prepared his lunch. Since it was my day off, I decided to surprise him by cooking his favorite meal and bringing it to his office. I waited in the lobby, excited to see his reaction, but what I witnessed completely shattered my reality. The door to his office opened, and out stepped a woman I had never seen before, followed by my dad and 2 children. One of them, a little girl, called him Daddy. My heart skipped a beat. Confused and overwhelmed, I quickly ducked behind a corner, trying to remain unnoticed. I watched as they made their way to the parking lot, where my father embraced the woman and kissed her passionately on the lips. Then he picked up the children and kissed their foreheads. At that moment, the truth hit me like a ton of bricks. My dad had another family. I stood frozen, trying to make sense of what I had just seen. Part of me wanted to confront him right then and there, but something inside me told me to hold back. Instead, I walked back to my car, my mind racing. The questions were relentless. How could he do this? How could he have another family, a life completely hidden from us? When he came home later that evening, I was ready. My mom was out, so it was just the 2 of us. As he walked through the door, he greeted me with his usual smile, but I couldn't bring myself to smile back. I simply asked, "Who are they?" The look on his face immediately changed. The color drained from his face as panic flooded his eyes. He tried to brush it off, but I wasn't playing games. I repeated the question, and with a heavy heart, I asked him to explain who the woman and the children were. For a moment he stood there, frozen. He couldn't find the words. Finally he sighed deeply and told me, "It's not what you think." But I was no longer buying his excuses. What else could it be? When a child calls a man daddy, and the man kisses the woman and the children in public, there's only one possible explanation. I demanded the truth. I wanted to know how long this had been going on, and I accused him of lying to me and our family for years. He tried to calm me down, explaining that things were complicated and that I wouldn't understand. But I wasn't interested in excuses. I just needed to know the truth. Finally, he broke down and admitted it. Yes, he had been seeing another woman for years, and they had 2 children together. One of them was a little girl, and the other a 20-year-old son who had severe cerebral palsy. He confessed that he never wanted things to go this far but found himself trapped in a situation he didn't know how to escape. Devastation and betrayal swept over me. My father, the man I had trusted my entire life, had been living a double life. As much as I tried to process the information, I couldn't bring myself to forgive him. Worse still, he begged me not to tell my mom. He said it would destroy her and tear apart our family. He even tried to bribe me, offering to buy me anything I wanted if I kept quiet. For a moment, I considered his plea. But deep down, I knew I couldn't live with myself if I kept this secret. I spent that night in bed, unable to sleep, constantly replaying the image of my father with his second family. The question kept haunting me. What would happen if I didn't tell my mom? I knew what it would mean. If I stayed silent, my mother would remain oblivious to the life my father was leading behind her back. She would continue to trust him, to love him, and to believe in the man she married. I knew how much she adored him. She never questioned his loyalty, and the thought of destroying that belief was unbearable. But then another thought gnawed at me. If I didn't tell her, could I live with myself? Could I continue pretending that everything was fine when I knew the truth? The burden of keeping this secret felt unbearable. I knew my dad would keep lying to both of us, and if my mom found out on her own, the betrayal would be even worse. As I lay there, the weight of my decision pressing down on me, I realized that I had to tell her the truth. It was the only way to ensure my mom knew what was really going on, no matter how painful it would be for both of us. The next morning, armed with proof, I knew there was no turning back. The moment of truth was coming, and nothing would prepare me for what would happen next. The following morning I found myself staring at my dad's phone, my hands trembling. I had known his passcode for years, a small detail that would now become the key to uncovering his lies. As I scrolled through his messages, the weight of the truth became heavier with every text I read. There were conversations between him and the woman, full of love and longing. I felt sick to my stomach as I came across pictures of them together, smiling and laughing, the same way my dad had smiled with us during the rare moments he was truly present. They were in Disney World. The family trip I had begged him to take us on every year, but he always had an excuse. Work, money, no time. But there they were, smiling under Cinderella's castle. The kids were wearing Mickey Mouse ears, and the woman had her arm around my dad. I was seething with anger as I scrolled through image after image. I had wanted to go to Disney World for as long as I could remember, but my dad had always promised it would happen next year. Soon. Now I understood why it never came to pass. He had taken them instead. He had taken his other family to the place I had dreamed of. I felt my eyes burning as the tears began to fall, a mix of betrayal, heartbreak, and fury. I had never imagined something like this was possible. The man who had raised me, who I thought was always honest and loving, had been living a secret life. Every lie, every excuse he had given me for years, had been leading up to this moment. My mind raced. Had he ever thought about me during those trips? Did he feel guilty when he was laughing and playing with his other children, knowing that I had wanted the same things? The questions didn't stop. I knew I had to do something with this proof. I needed my mom to know the truth, no matter how much it would destroy her. But the thought of causing her pain made my stomach twist. How would I ever tell her? How would she react? I spent the rest of the day thinking about it, and when the evening came, I couldn't wait any longer. It was time. I knew I had to tell her what I had uncovered, but I still wasn't ready for the consequences. But before I could speak those words, something unexpected happened, something that would turn everything upside down. The following morning I couldn't hold back. My heart was pounding in my chest as I sat my mom down at the kitchen table. She looked up at me, sensing something was wrong, but I could see the concern in her eyes. I didn't waste any time. I told her everything, showing her the screenshots and the pictures. As soon as she saw them, the tears began to fall. Her face turned pale as she absorbed the shocking truth. "Why, honey?" she asked between sobs. "Why would he do this to us?" I had no answers for her. I was just as shocked and devastated as she was. The man we both trusted had betrayed us in the worst possible way. My mother tried to gather herself, but the hurt was too deep. She stopped crying after a while, wiped her tears, and said something I never expected to hear. "We're going to confront him together." My heart dropped. I wasn't sure I was ready for this, but I couldn't stop my mom. She was determined to face the truth, no matter how painful. She told me that we needed to stand by each other and make sure he faced the consequences of his actions. That night when my dad came home, everything changed. My mom was already waiting, no longer the woman who believed in her marriage. She wasn't going to pretend anymore. As soon as my dad walked in, she wasted no time. "Tell me the truth," she said. At first, he tried to deny everything, but the moment he saw the screenshots, his face turned white. He knew there was no escaping the truth. Slowly, he broke down, admitting to the affair and everything that followed. He told us about the woman, how it had started as a fling, and how it spiraled into a full-blown relationship. He spoke of the pressure of his career, of feeling overwhelmed, and how the affair had given him something he felt he was missing. But there was no justification for his betrayal. My mom didn't say much during his confession. She was too stunned, too heartbroken. I could see the weight of the years of lies and deceit in her eyes. But the truth was only beginning to unfold, and what came next would make everything feel even more surreal. The next morning we made a decision. My mom was resolute. We were going to confront the other woman, his second family, face to face. She needed to know the truth just like we had. It wasn't just about my dad anymore. It was about bringing everything to light, about holding him accountable for his actions. My dad was reluctant, but my mom insisted. She told him he had to face the consequences, and this was part of it. He tried to convince us to let it go, to walk away from it all, But my mom wasn't backing down. Neither was I. We drove to the park where my dad had arranged to meet the other woman. As we approached, I saw them standing there. He was holding the little girl, laughing and playing with her, completely unaware of what was about to happen. My heart broke, seeing him so comfortable in a life that wasn't ours. We stepped out of the car, and as we approached, the woman looked confused. She asked my dad who we were, and he just stared at the ground, unable to speak. My mom didn't waste any time. "We're his wife and daughter," she said. "And you need to know the truth." The woman's reaction was not what I expected. She stood still, trying to process what my mom had just told her. There were no tears, no outbursts, just shock. She turned to my dad and asked him, "Is it true?" He nodded silently, his face full of guilt. Then, in an unexpected twist, she said something that caught us both off guard. "If you want to stay with us, I'll accept it. But only if you're honest with me from now on." She wasn't angry. She was calm, almost resigned to the fact that everything she had built was now crumbling. It was clear she had suspected something, but she hadn't wanted to face the truth. My mom and I were stunned. How could she be so accepting? How could she just brush this all off? But that was the moment my mom had reached her breaking point. It was no longer about forgiveness. It was about survival. My mom looked at my dad with a mixture of anger and sadness, but there was no more compassion in her eyes. She didn't need to hear anything else. "I'm filing for a divorce," she said, her voice steady. "You've made your choice, and now I'm making mine." Those words hung in the air, final and resolute. My dad didn't protest. He didn't try to apologize. He simply stood there, broken. The rest of the day passed in a blur. My mom and I left the park, leaving my dad behind with his other family. I couldn't look at him anymore. I couldn't see him the same way. That night I heard him come home, but it was different now. The house was filled with an eerie silence. My mom didn't speak to him. She didn't have to. The decision had been made. The life we had known was over. And from that moment on, nothing would ever be the same. The truth had shattered our world, but it was also the first step toward healing. In the weeks that followed, things changed. The divorce proceedings were painful, but necessary. My mom and I spent hours talking, processing everything that had happened, and slowly we began to rebuild our lives. There were days of anger, days of grief, but through it all we stuck together. I had always seen my dad as a hero. But the man who walked away from our family was not the man I had known. I still struggled with the memories of what I had discovered. The lies, the deceit, and the betrayal would never be easy to forget. But through the darkness, my mom became my strength. She showed me what it meant to survive, to fight for yourself when everything around you is falling apart. We were going to be okay, even if it didn't feel that way right away. I still don't know how long this will take to fully heal from. But one thing is certain. The truth, no matter how painful, always has a way of setting you free. And though the past would always haunt us, we knew that we had taken the first step toward freedom. The journey wasn't over yet, but it was ours to control.